begin, let me ask you a question. Of the five senses, which sense do you think is the most important to you? For example, the five senses, just to review: hearing, sight, smell, touch, and taste. Which of these five is most important to you? Just put it into the chat. I'm really curious to know. I've gotten some interesting answers recently when I've given this webinar before, so I'm just curious to know what you think, because I know the vast majority of people will probably say their vision, but some people will say taste. Others will say hearing. So it really is interesting, the spread. But my guess is most of you do value your vision, and that's why you're here today, to learn about your eyesight, what you can do to be proactive about your eyesight and protect your eyesight. Because when it does come to vision, we rely on our vision for so many of our daily activities. We read, we use a device, we do household tasks like cooking, and we need our vision for all of those daily activities. Now, beyond that, we need our vision if we're working. We need our vision for that for most types of professions. We need our vision to go out into the world, to navigate the world, enjoy the beauty of nature, to be able to drive if you drive. And then also, most importantly, this is something that's really, really important. We need our vision to be able to see the faces of our loved ones, to be able to see their expressions, their smiling faces, their sad faces. And, that type of communication is so, so important. And we need excellent vision to be able to do all those things. So, my next question is, yes, vision is really important. So for so many of our daily tasks, but what are you doing to be proactive about your vision? Now, the majority of people, maybe you're an exception because, you're being proactive, you're taking this webinar, but the majority of people do take their eyesight for granted. They go to bed at night and they wake up just assuming that they'll be able to see well, but that's not always the case, because sometimes vision issues can develop. Some of them can be slowly progressive. Some of them can come on very abruptly, but vision issues can develop whereby people may not have excellent eyesight. So we all need to do things to really boost our eyesight, to fortify our eyes so that we don't lose vision. And there are so many things that can happen to our eyes. Our eyes are really complex. So many different conditions that can happen that can steal our eyesight away. So the key thing is to be proactive about our vision, to protect and preserve our vision. And even if you may not be having vision issues now at this very moment, it is very likely that sometime in the future, whether it's a couple of years down the road or maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, vision issues will pop up. And so what you do today will help you prevent those vision issues in the future. That's what I always try to tell my patients is, don't just think of it as an afterthought. Think of it as something that you're really investing in to be able to enjoy excellent eyesight for, your senior years, to be able to travel or read books or whatever it is you really enjoy doing, spending time with friends and family, cooking, etc. Do what it takes now for the future. And so prevention is really so important when it comes to eyesight. Benjamin Franklin once said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that couldn't be more true than when it comes to our eyes. So think of it that way. Now, just a bit about me. Many of you probably don't know me, but I'll just very briefly introduce myself. My name is Dr.Rani Banik. I also go by Rudrani, which is my full name. I am a board-certified ophthalmologist in the US, based in New York. I'm also a fellowship-trained neuro-ophthalmologist, so I deal with all the connections between the brain and the eyes. I have a practice here in New York City called Envision Health NYC. I also teach. So I also have an academic position at Mount Sinai. I'm associate professor of ophthalmology at Mount Sinai. And there I teach residents, I teach fellows, I teach medical students, and I also run clinical trials. So I have a hybrid practice. I have the best of both worlds. I have a private practice, but I also have the academic side of things. And I've been working in ophthalmology for over 20 years. So yes, I do date myself a little bit here, but it's been a long time that I've been doing eyes. Now, in addition to my traditional training in ophthalmology and neuro-ophthalmology, I also have additional certification in integrative and functional medicine. Now, some of you may be aware of these terms, integrative and functional medicine, but to describe it briefly, it's a very holistic approach to health. Whereby we use nutrition, We use lifestyle modification, botanical supplements, essential oils, stress modulation. These all fall under integrative and functional medicine. And the key thing with functional medicine in particular is to find the root cause of a disease, not just to treat it, not just to put a Band-Aid on top of it, but really to figure out where is it coming from, what is the dysfunction that it's coming from, and to address that root cause. So it is a little bit different than what most of my colleagues in eye care do, whether they're ophthalmologists or optometrists. Most eye doctors will be reactive to someone's vision problem. Someone comes in with a diagnosis of macular degeneration, and it's already happened, so then they manage it after it's happened. Whereas my perspective is, let's try to prevent it from happening. What can we do to optimize your eyes, keep them healthy, so you don't develop macular degeneration down the road? So it's really flipping the narrative in terms of being reactive to conditions to being proactive. And I've been really fortunate. I've been on a lot of media channels. I've been able to help to spread my message. I've been on television, radio, tons of podcasts, over 75 podcasts. Again, trying to spread this word that don't take your eyes for granted. And I'm educating both the public as well as my colleagues, because a lot of my colleagues, again, ophthalmologists, optometrists, they're just not familiar with a lot of the research that's been done on what we can do for preventative eye care. So just last week on Friday, I just gave a grand rounds presentation at my hospital to educate my colleagues in ophthalmology about diet and nutrition. And most of it they never even heard of, which is crazy to think, because it's not that this is new. This has been published. This is scientifically accepted, yet most eye doctors just don't know because we weren't taught. So moving on here, again, this is my motto: vision is a priceless gift. We shouldn't take it for granted. Be proactive, protect, and preserve it. So now let's get into the heart of today's webinar, which is what happens during midlife? What happens during perimenopause and menopause with respect to our vision? And what can we do to manage some of these issues? So today I'm going to be sharing with you the top 3 vision issues that affect women, particularly after the age of 40. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing some of my patient stories, because I find that when I give you a real life scenario, something that someone's really experienced and what we've done to kind of manage that, it really hits home, because then you say, okay, I have some similar issues. Oh, there are options. I can do some of those things. And so I think it really, really brings it, makes it a lot more personal to share patient stories. So let's move on here. So let's talk about vision issue number 1. So I'm going to introduce you to my patient, Susie. Susie is 52 years old. She's overall very healthy, no major medical issues. And she came in to see me because her eyes were burning. She just could not keep her eyes open. And because they were just burning so much, they were really uncomfortable. In addition, she was very, very light sensitive. She had trouble driving because of this light sensitivity. And because of the light sensitivity and all of this discomfort she was feeling, she began wearing sunglasses. And it turned out that she was wearing her sunglasses almost all the time, both indoors as well as outdoors, which is not ideal. So let's talk about what Susie had on her exam. So this is an image of the cornea. On the left, what I'm showing you is an image of the front of the eye, including the cornea, under the microscope. And we use a dye called fluorescein to see how the surface of the eye looks. Is it smooth? Is it irregular? Is there any dryness there? So that's what you're seeing, is this kind of greenish hue over the cornea. That is a dye that we use. So on the left is a healthy cornea. On the right is Susie's cornea. So immediately you see that there are these green dots, these little kind of patches of green dots, and the surface is not smooth. It's very, very irregular. So what this represents is dry eye. So Susie has dry eye. And basically, as the term implies, when somebody has dry eye, the surface of their eye dries out. It becomes extremely dry. Think of it, when you have dry skin, it starts to crack, and, very uncomfortable. So that's what's happening to Susie's eyes. And dry eye is actually very, very common. Over 50 million people in the world, at least 50 million people in the world, have dry eye. It's also much more common with age, even though, yes, children can get it. It's definitely much more prevalent in older individuals. And this is really, really important. Dry eye is much more common in women than in men. Yes, men can get dry eye, but I would say in my patients over the age of 50, the majority of them have dry eye. If somebody doesn't have dry eye over 50, then they're the exception. So it's super, super common. Now, as I was saying earlier, what is dry eye? It's when the surface of the eye, the cornea, dries out. And actually, I'm going to show you my eye model here. I thought it would be helpful to show this to you. So this is a complex structure here that, our eye, but I'm going to open it up just so you can see a little bit about what's going on the inside of the eye. Okay, so there are many structures here, but on the very, very front of the eye is this clear structure. It's a dome-shaped, clear, transparent structure. That's the cornea. And so what happens is we have glands on our eyelids and underneath our eyelid that produce tears. And so the tears that normally coat the surface of the eye, they dry out or they evaporate. And when they evaporate, the surface of the eye, the cornea, isn't getting enough lubrication. That's really what dry eye is. Now, what are the common symptoms of dry eye? Well, number one, most people experience burning. But beyond that, a lot of people experience irritation, just a feeling of discomfort, like there's something scratchy in their eye or a gritty sensation or even a sandy sensation. This almost feels like there's gravel in the eye, like there's something there or an eyelash and you just want to rinse it out or get it out by rubbing your eyes. Now, in addition to those symptoms, many people with dry eye do have redness. And sometimes the redness is not just on the surface of the eye, but it may actually be the eyelids themselves that are red. They may even get swollen from dryness because there's inflammation going on here. Now, this is also a really important symptom of dry eye that you should all be aware of, is blurred vision. And this type of blurred vision is not something that stays with you all the time. Blurred vision from dry eye is something that comes and goes. It may be worse during certain parts of the day, particularly, let's say, at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. But it's transient blurring. So sometimes it'll be clear, you blink a few times or you splash some water on your face, and then it may clear out even more. So again, it's coming and going. Now, this is also a really important symptom of dry eye to recognize, is that many people with dry eye actually have tearing of their eyes. Now, it may seem contradictory, why, if my eyes are dry, Dr. Rani, why do I have tearing? It's because when the surface of the eye is dry, the gland up here that secretes tears gets a signal that, oh, the surface is dry. Now it's time to make more tears. So that gland overproduces tears in response to the dryness. So the tearing is secondary to the dryness. So basically, if you can stop the dryness, you can help stop the tearing. It's really, really important to understand that they both do go hand in hand. One is the result of the other. Now, as a functional medicine ophthalmologist, I always am looking for the root cause of my patient's condition. So, when I looked at Susie, I saw her cornea, but then I closely examined her eyelids. And this is really a close-up picture of her eyelid just in front of where the eyelashes come out. You can kind of just see, like right here, there's some eyelashes here. But basically, these little white dots that you're seeing there, those are the openings for some of the eyelid glands. And these glands produce oils. They produce healthy oils to help coat the surface of the eye. And basically, Susie's glands were blocked. Now, they normally should not look like this. They should look like little dots, but they shouldn't be filled with this whitish material. So her glands are blocked, and this is called meibomian gland dysfunction, or MGD. This was the root cause of Susie's dry eye. And basically, what I do in my practice is I actually image the glands. So I have a device, which is an infrared camera, and it's a non-invasive camera, and it basically can take a picture of the gland so we can see what the structure is. So the device is called Liposcan. And so I looked at Susie's glands. So these are what normal glands look like. We have about 25 to 30 glands in each eyelid, and they look almost like fingers. But what you're seeing here, the little circles, those white circles, those are actually oils inside the oil glands, and they get released by those little gland openings. So that's on the left is a normal picture of someone's glands. On the right, this is what Susie's glands look like. So basically, she has, you can see that there are areas where her glands are missing. So she has gland loss. And this is something that I've seen in my practice. It's very common with age, but it's also particularly common as women get into menopause. Now, why is this? It's because the glands have receptors on them. There are hormone receptors on these glands. There are estrogen receptors, progesterone receptors, and also testosterone receptors on these glands. So it's not just the female sex hormones, it's also the male sex hormones. And so in menopause or perimenopause, when those hormones start to go down, then the glands lose a lot of their support, and some of them do start to die off. So this is something I see very often in my practice in patients who are in menopause or perimenopause. So this was really the root cause of her problem. So what do we do? Well, after finding out the root cause, again, a combination of meibomian gland dysfunction and also hormonal issues because she was going through perimenopause and menopause, we began simply with just lubrication, just to try to lubricate the surface. So she was using some special eye drops every 2 hours. And then I also had her do some hot compresses, which is so phenomenal because it really, really stimulates the glands. It helps the glands to produce healthy oils. If they're blocked, to help them basically expel the blockage, to open up the blockage. So the hot compresses are really, really important. In addition to that, in order for her to help make healthier oils for her eyes, I put her on an omega supplement. There's a particular supplement that I recommend. It's actually part of my supplement line called Soothe, and it's a complete omega. It's omega 3, 6, 7, and 9. So I actually have it right here. This is, again, it's a fish oil based omega, but it is a full complement. So not just threes, not just DHA, EPA, but also it's got GLA in it and omega 7 and omega 9, which have all been shown to help with dry eye. I also talked to Susie about her diet because there is a lot of evidence. I was talking earlier about the scientific evidence behind diet and vision. There is a lot people can do from a nutritional standpoint to help improve their dry eyes. So we talked to her about what she was eating, how she could modify some of her foods to include more omegas in her foods. So certain kinds of fish, certain kinds of seeds, healthier oils. So that helped to make a big difference. And then ultimately, what I did for her was a reset for her glands. So she was losing glands, but we can't bring back the glands that have been already lost, but we can try to preserve the glands that are still functioning and intact structurally. So I did a procedure for her in the office. It's called LipiFlow to reset those glands. So it really made a huge difference for her. And in about 2 months, she was really dry eye free. It was really incredible to see the transformation here using, again, a functional medicine approach, using a combination of traditional methods, which are basically eye drops, using the hot compresses, diet, supplements, and then doing the LipiFlow, which is more of a medical management for her dry eyes. So she was really, really thrilled that she was doing much better. So if anyone is interested in this, what I mentioned earlier, Soothe, which is, again, the complete omega, and also the hot compresses that I recommend, you can actually get this as part of my dry eye bundle. So I'm going to have my staff put into the chat if you're interested in checking it out. My website link for the dry eye bundle. Now, what I would usually recommend if you're going to do an omega supplement, don't just do it for 2 weeks and say, oh, it didn't really work for me. You really have to do it more consistently. And I recommend doing it for at least 3 months. Whatever you try, you should try it for 3 months. Stick to it, commit to it for 3 months, and then reassess, because 2 weeks is just too short. It's not enough of a time for your glands to reset, for them to start producing enough healthy oil. So do it consistently for 3 weeks. So now moving on here. The next vision issue I want to talk to you about is going to be illustrated by my patient, Monica. So here's Monica. She is 40 years old. She's very healthy. She also has really never had any vision issues before, never wore glasses, but almost all of a sudden, when she hit her 40th birthday, she could no longer focus up close. She had trouble reading. She had to hold her devices out really, really far for her to be able to focus on her phone or her iPad. And unfortunately, because of her work, she was on screens all day long. So it really became a very challenging issue, this problem focusing up close. She just could not read the small text on her phone anymore. So this condition, which some of you may be familiar with, I know I am because I have it as well, is called presbyopia, where things up close are just too blurry and you really have to hold things really far away to be able to see them clearly. And it's almost like I call it the syndrome, my arms just aren't long enough. That's the syndrome. So just put it into the chat if you've ever experienced this before, if this is something that you've been struggling with, because it is very, very common. It does happen to both men and women, but in my experience, I've noticed that women tend to be affected at a much earlier age. And so usually even, some people, even Monica was in her 40s, but even some people in their late 30s start to get some symptoms of presbyopia where they just cannot focus clearly up close anymore. So that is something that is very common. And again, the medical term is presbyopia. And all kinds of near tasks can be challenging. So for example, reading labels, if you're in the grocery store and you're trying to read the label, it can be really, really challenging. Or looking at a prescription bottle or a supplement bottle, it can be really too small. Threading a needle, doing any kind of handicraft near work can be really challenging. And so now, why does presbyopia develop? Well, it develops because as we all get older, the lens inside our eye, now I'm going to go back to my eye model here. Remember, I told you the front of the eye is the cornea, which is this here. But behind that is the iris, which is the colored part of the eye. Behind that sits the lens. And here's the lens right here. Now, the lens is like having glasses inside your eye. This is a dynamic structure. It helps us to focus. And here it's clear. When we're young, the lens is clear, it's transparent, and it's also very flexible. So depending on what we're looking at, whether we're looking at something at far distance or we're looking at something at intermediate distance, like your computer monitor or maybe a dashboard in a car, or if we're looking at something up close, like reading on our phone or reading a magazine, the lens will change shape. But what happens is as we get older, this lens begins to stiffen. So the proteins, the lens fibers in this lens begin to become less malleable, less flexible. They start to stiffen. Oh, I just lost my lens there. Let me put this over here so I don't lose it. Okay, so this is an example. This schematic is showing you what happens for distance vision. So when someone's looking at distance, the lens is a certain shape so that the light rays can focus on the back of the eye and the retina. But what happens when we're looking at something up close is the lens, it thickens in the middle. So you can see it's becoming thicker in the middle so that these light rays can focus clearly onto the retina in the back of the eye. So this is really optics, part of physics, but this is what's happening in our eye all the time. Unfortunately, as we get older, that process decreases. Now, who gets this problem with trouble focusing up close called presbyopia? I would say if you live long enough, most likely you will have this problem. It does happen as we get older. Unfortunately, it's a physiologic change in the lens in our eye. Just like if we all live long enough, most likely we're going to get gray hairs or get wrinkles. It does happen, but there are things we can do to modulate it. So we can't necessarily reverse it completely, at least not yet, but there are ways that we can modulate it. So a lot of people get this. The first symptoms usually begin in one's 40s. So 60% of people begin to have presbyopia between the ages of 40 to 42. But definitely the numbers do go up as people get older, 50s, 60s, 70s, and definitely by one's late 60s, 70s, almost everyone will have some degree of presbyopia. And it's very, very common in the world. This is probably an underestimate. It's estimated that 1.3 billion people have presbyopia, but it's probably a lot more than that. Now, does presbyopia directly relate to hormones? Well, I'm not sure. We just don't have enough research, but I can tell you that it tends to affect women in that age range, perimenopausal to menopausal. So a lot of women do associate that with their menopause symptoms. And yes, it is part of the aging process. And again, whether it's directly related to hormone imbalances, I'm not sure because there's just not enough data on that yet. So what did I recommend for Monica? Well, some simple DIY interventions. First of all, to take breaks. If she's really, really trying to focus up close, it's going to give her eye strain and fatigue. So I told her about the 20-20 rule, which is basically every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break, let your eyes refocus, readjust, and not to always look at something in the far distance, but just to close your eyes, to lubricate them, to relieve them of that constant barrage of stimulus. Also, I talked to her about doing hacks on her devices. There's so many different things you can do with our modern devices these days to help with presbyopia. So you don't necessarily have to hold your phone like way out at arm's length. There are a lot of other things you can do using device settings, device hacks, apps to help people focus up close. And then also, I just talked to her about adjusting her workspace, her distance to her devices, and also lighting. All these simple things can make a big difference when it comes to being able to read more comfortably when you're in this presbyopic age range. Now, the other thing I really talked to her about was her mindset, because she was so distraught by all of these changes. It really impacted her daily life, her work, etc. So I talked to her about her mindset, how she can try to relax, try to adopt a calmer mindset, try to get that parasympathetic nervous system more activated so she's not so stressed about this problem. And I think that really, I would say that was about 50% of her improvement is related to shifting her mindset into a calmer, more relaxed, less stressed mindset. And then finally, for certain situations, so she did travel for work, and sometimes she was traveling and she was on devices literally 12 hours a day. So I did give her a backup solution from a contact lens perspective. So I gave her something called modified monovision, which is where one eye is corrected for distance and the other eye is slightly undercorrected for distance, but corrected for reading. So she would be able to use one eye for distance, have some degree of depth perception at distance, because this eye is also partially corrected for distance, but also this eye is corrected for reading. So she could comfortably read on her phone or looking at her computer screen. So all those things combined really helped her to function better. And she was just so much she was in a better place. She was really, really upset and frustrated, and she really thought, this was a permanent issue and she would never find a solution, but now she's a lot more comfortable doing her daily tasks. So now moving on. Okay, so the other thing I did want to mention about presbyopia, remember, I did say that, yes, we should try to approach it using a functional medicine standpoint, lifestyle, botanical supplements, etc. There is specifically no particular botanical or supplement that I found that helps with presbyopia, but there are some more medical, more technical things that can be used, and this is something that you would have to talk to your eye doctor about. For example, there are prescription eye drops now that are FDA approved for presbyopia. And also there are surgeries now that can be done for presbyopia. Now, this is not something I would recommend as first or second line treatment. I would recommend it only as a last resort. If somebody's really, really uncomfortable, they're really struggling, yes, then we can talk about some of the more advanced options for treatment for presbyopia, but not first line at all. Okay, now, the last patient I'm going to share with you today, her story is Rose. So Rose is in her late 40s. She's 48 years old. She's also super healthy. She happens to be an architect. And so she is constantly on her screen all the time, just like many of us are. 10 to 12 hours a day, at least on a screen. And she was having blurred vision, but also she was extremely light sensitive. And she just could not use her devices anymore. She was wearing blue blocking glasses that were kind of a yellowish tint, but they were not working. So she was desperate and she came to me. She said, Dr. Banik, Dr. Rani, I need something. I need a solution for this because I've been to see 3 other eye doctors and they really haven't helped me. So please find something, a solution that's going to help me. So I just, before we talk about what, was the treatment for Rose, I wanted to just ask you all a question. We all spend a lot of time on our devices. Obviously, we're wedded to our phones and our tablets and our computers, and our television screens with Netflix. But how many hours a day do you think most adults spend on their devices? So there's actually a survey done by Scientific American Mind, and they published this. This is actually before the pandemic that they published this, but put it into the chat. How many hours do you think the average adult spends on a device? Let's see what people think. Okay, so I got one vote for 6 hours. Anyone else? Take a guess. How many hours do you think most adults spend on a device? Okay, so one for 8 plus 8. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit shocking. So according to this survey, Scientific American found that most adults spend 10 hours, 39 minutes on a screen. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that we're all so glued to our devices, but we use them for everything. We use them for work. We use them for education. We use them for personal use, to connect with friends and family, to do social media. It's just a staple now in our daily lives. So 10 hours, 39 minutes is the average. And this is actually before the pandemic. So just think about that, how those numbers have probably gone up even higher since that time. So if you spend 10, 12 hours on a device, you're not alone. It's probably very common. So, what can happen from spending all that time on screens? Well, eye strain and light sensitivity are super, super common. I've seen, I would say this has become like an epidemic in my practice. So many people coming in with eye strain and light sensitivity from being on screens. So I'll just tell you that this syndrome, it's called digital eye strain when we're on our devices and our eyes feel fatigued and tired. There are different components to digital eye strain. It's actually an umbrella term, and there are many symptoms that fall under that. So dry, itchy eyes, watery eyes, tired eyes, sometimes even headaches, neck pain, shoulder pain, and of course, blurred vision. So what are the root causes of this? Why is this happening? Well, there are actually 3 root causes of eye strain. One is dry eye, which we talked about with the first patient I shared with you. The second is an incorrect prescription, especially for intermediate as well as near vision. So if you're not wearing the right glasses, the right prescription, yes, it's very, very likely that you're going to suffer from eye strain. Or maybe you don't even need a prescription for up close. I actually have some patients who happen to be myopic, so they wear a minus prescription for distance, and they still wear those glasses for reading, and they're very, very uncomfortable. But when I have them take their glasses off for reading, again, these are nearsighted patients, so their vision is naturally focused up close, just based on the shape and the curvature of their eye. They're actually perfectly focused up close. I tell them to take their glasses off. So that's kind of for some patients, it's really an epiphany, because they say, well, I had no idea that I should be taking my glasses off for reading. But depending on the prescription, yes, that may be a good option. And then the third root cause of eye strain is light sensitivity. So we already talked about the first root cause with dry eye. We already partially talked about the prescription issue with the last patient. So now let's talk a little bit about light sensitivity. So from our screens emit a lot of blue light. Now, you probably heard about blue light. Blue light comes from the sun. That's the major emitter of blue light. But blue light also comes from all of our devices. And blue light is tied in with our circadian rhythms. So, when the sun comes up in the morning, we get blue light coming in, it comes through our eyes, it goes to our brain, it sends a signal saying, hey, the sun is up, it's time to wake up, it's time to get going with your day. As the sun goes through the horizon, towards the end of the day, the amount of blue light coming from the sun goes down. And that signal, that decreasing blue light wavelength, that signal indicates to our brains that, okay, it's time to wind down and it's time to get ready for bed. So that's our natural circadian rhythm, as it depends on blue light. But when we're exposed to blue light all the time, literally all the time, when we're indoors on our devices, it can really disrupt the circadian pattern. So our eyes really don't know what time it is. Let's say you're up at 9 p.m. on your device, and I'm guilty of this as well. I do this all the time. I'm working late into the night. I'm on my device. Yes, it's interfering with my circadian rhythm. So that blue light can also specifically triggers cells in the back of the eye to trigger light sensitivity. So that's really why the blue light coming from our devices, how it affects our vision, and in addition to the circadian rhythm. So now, keep in mind that I said we get blue light from everywhere indoors. It's not just our screens, whether it's our computer screen, our tablet, our handheld devices, but also a lot of the lamps, the bulbs that we use currently, whether they're energy saving CFL bulbs, complex fluorescent bulbs, or LED bulbs, these all emit a huge amount of blue light compared to their counterparts. Incandescent bulbs barely used to emit any blue light, but now we have all of this blue light because we're also trying to save energy. So how can you counteract this? Well, instead of blue blockers, I would say the best way to counteract blue light is to use diet as a tool. And there are nutrients called lutein, zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin that are found in plants or in some animal foods. They're not made by our body, so we need to get them from diet. But these nutrients are deposited into the back of the eye. So this picture here is showing you an image of a real life retina. So this here, that circle there is the optic nerve. These are the blood vessels coming off the optic nerve. And right here in that dark circle in the middle, that's the macula. And the macula is responsible for our 20/20 vision. And these nutrients, lutein, zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin, they're called the macular carotenoids. They're carotenoids relatives to vitamin A, relatives to beta carotene, to lycopene. But basically, these nutrients, nature put there in the back of our eyes to absorb blue light. It's shocking. It's shocking that our bodies, I shouldn't say shocking, but it's a miracle that our bodies have evolved this way to be able to naturally protect our eyes against the effects of blue light. And so if we eat enough foods with these nutrients, we can decrease light sensitivity and eye strain. There are studies to show that. And so much better than using blue blockers is to work with diet to increase your intake of some of those nutrients. So what do we do for Rose? Well, number one, her prescription was totally off for her reading and computer use. So I adjusted her prescription, made some really important tweaks to her prescription. I talked to her about the 20/20 rule again, which is basically every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break, close your eyes, relax your eyes, maybe do some calming while you're doing that, deep breathing, etc. I talked to her about diet, increasing her intake of macular carotenoids. And then also I put her on a supplement that it was specifically designed for blue light protection, which is the supplement in my line is called Fortify. So Fortify is a combination of all three macular carotenoids. Now, not all eye health supplements will have all three, lutein, zeaxanthin, and mesozeaxanthin, but Fortify does. It has all three, and basically it helps to protect the retina. It also has some other things. It's got a very potent form of vitamin E called tocotrienol that can help protect against cataracts. It also has astaxanthin, which maybe some of you have heard of. It's a nutrient that comes from algae, and it's great for anti-aging purposes and skin, but it's also great for eye health. So Fortify has all of them, and I'm going to have my assistant put it into the chat if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Fortify. But so I put her on the supplement, and she really started to turn around. Again, it wasn't immediate because especially the diet and the supplements take a little bit of time for her body to accumulate those benefits of those nutrients. But after a couple of months, she was much, much more comfortable on her devices. So she did really, really well. This is, again, Fortify. The other thing I didn't mention is Fortify also has berry extracts. It has two types of berry extracts. So it has mackey berry, which is great for dry eye. It also has bilberry extract, which is great for dry eye and also macular degeneration. So it's really kind of it could be your go-to eye health supplement because it addresses not just your retinal health, the macula, helps protect against macular degeneration, but it also is designed to help with dry eye as well. Now moving on. So we covered 3 issues today in the past 45 minutes or so, 3 issues that commonly affect your eyes after age 40. Just to recap, dry eye, presbyopia, and eye strain and light sensitivity. Usually, I have seen a lot of my patients, especially women, that, once they hit their 40s, 50s, they become extra sensitive to to light. And why that is, again, I'm not sure, but I'm almost 100% certain that it has to do with our hormones, because many of these women, my patients, they did not have these problems when they were younger, in their 20s, 30s, even though, yes, they used to work on screens during those years also. Really been once they hit midlife, perimenopause, menopause, that they have noticed light sensitivity. And it probably also has to do with the size of our pupil. Our pupil also changes size. It can be really small, it can be really large. And so there are some studies that show that as people, especially women, get older, their pupils don't respond as well to light. So that can also contribute to light sensitivity. Again, I think that there must be a hormonal basis for that, even though the research is very, very limited in these areas when it comes to women's health and hormonal health. Okay, so when it comes to managing the effects of aging on our eyes, my number one recommendation is understand the problem and its root cause. Don't just put a Band-Aid on it. Really try to understand, where is it coming from? Like, for example, Susie, my first patient, her big problem was her glands. She had no idea that her glands were not functioning well, that they were dying off, that they were atrophying. So once we were able to determine that, we could create a tailored approach for her using functional medicine and root cause analysis. Now, the next thing I would say is, when managing these issues that come with aging, try to implement the first line strategies. Do these DIY strategies. They're non-invasive. They're very inexpensive, and they do work. A lot of the time, they can really reverse a lot of the issues that many people have. Now, the next thing is, if those initial DIY strategies don't work, then talk to your eye doctor. Go in, have an honest discussion, say, okay, this is what I've tried, it hasn't worked. What else can I do? Because there are many, many options. This is kind of shocking to people. A lot of people think, oh, I've tried everything, I'm at my wit's end. I don't have any options left, but there are options. There are always options when it comes to being able to see clearly and comfortably, despite some of these aging changes that happen. And then finally, it's really, really important is to think about holistic health when it comes to your eye health. So think about your diet, think about your lifestyle, your exercise, your sleep, your stress levels, and prevention is really, really key. So the next thing I wanted to just share with you is, I have a lot of people who take my webinars and they say, I would really like to learn more and go deeper with this, because I've been to my local eye doctor and I'm just not getting better. I'm still really struggling. What else can I do? So I offer a lot of deep dive strategies for my patients in my office, but not everyone can come to my office. Like, for example, they may not they may not live in New York, or they may not be able to travel to New York. For some of you, for example, if you're living in other countries, you're not necessarily able to come see me as a patient. So what I did was I created an online program called Ageless Eyes by Dr.Rani. And what I do in this program is I teach people, particularly most of my students are women. I teach women how to navigate these issues comfortably and really to optimize their visual function using a lot of these functional medicine strategies. So the course, it's an online course. It is really targeted towards people who notice vision changes with age, whether it's difficulty reading in low light, dry, scratchy, irritated eyes, sensitivity to light, some of the problems that my patients had. And the goal is to try to turn back the years on your eyes and have them function and feel like they did back when you were in your 20s. Hopefully, most of you had great vision when you're in your 20s. I know not everybody does, but hopefully most of you did enjoy really clear, comfortable vision. So the goal is to try to turn back the years and keep your eyes ageless. Yes, they are going to, there are changes that happen as we get older, but there's a lot people can do to counteract those changes. So in the course, I tell my students that there's a mission. The mission is to develop a roadmap, a personalized roadmap to manage the 3 biggest vision challenges that can affect your eyes, so you can maintain healthy vision despite the passage of time. That's really the mission for the course, is to empower people with this knowledge, to be able to, imagine going to a restaurant and that's dimly lit, and be able to read a menu without any major effort, without having blurry vision, or to look in the mirror and see bright, youthful eyes instead of tired, red eyes or sagging eyes, etc. And so in 4 weeks, I teach my students how to manage all of these. condition. So let me explain a little bit, if you're interested, let me explain a little bit about how the course is set up. It's all done on Zoom, just like we're doing today. There are 3 core modules, and each week we cover a different core module. So week 1 is the dry eye solution beyond OTC drops. OTC stands for over-the-counter drops. Week 2 is the presbyopia solution beyond reading glasses. And week 3 is the light solution beyond blue blockers. And in the first module, I teach you how to figure out, if you have dry eye, how to figure out what is the root cause of your dry eye, because not everyone's root cause is the same. There are many possible root causes out there. I shared a couple with you. I shared the gland dysfunction, and I also shared the hormonal issues, but there's a lot more that could be contributing to dry eye. So I teach my students how to do a self-assessment basically and figure out what is the root cause of your dry eye. And then in week 2, we talk about the many options beyond traditional reading glasses that will help people see comfortably again for near and to use a device or to read without issues. And then in module 3, we cover how to modulate the effects of different types of light on your eyes to reduce eye strain and fatigue, and also to optimize your eyes' function and regenerative capabilities. This is really, really important. There are certain wavelengths of light other than blue light that have actually been shown clinically to help your eyes regenerate their cells. It's really phenomenal. This is really cutting edge research. So I'm sharing this with you in this module here. Now, how is the course set up? Well, basically, each week there are 2 sessions. Mondays will be the 90-minute live webinar session where, like today, we're going through case studies, we're going through options, tips, etc. And then Fridays will be live Q&A sessions, and these are community sessions where I invite people to share their experiences, what's worked for them, what hasn't worked. We also do a lot of nutrition in this course. So basically with each module, I provide you with nutrition tips. And so we share recipes. And so basically on Fridays, we share some of those recipes. And there's also contests. So basically, as you go through the course, you accumulate points for doing the various different activities in the course. And there are prizes at the end. So on Fridays, we go through, okay, what's the point? What's the score? Who's at, the top 3? And so it's a lot of fun. There's a little healthy competition built into the course to make it enjoyable, and also, again, to create the sense of community. And in addition to that, you also get lots of resources. So self-assessments, other things that are not available readily through most channels. And a lot of eye doctors also don't know about these because these are, again, more holistic ways to help approach your eye health and preserve eye health. And then also as part of the course, you get to join the Ageless community, which is a private Facebook community. And in the community, we do a lot of sharing. And also I offer discounts on products and services, et cetera. So you also get access to the Ageless community. So now, how much does it all cost? Well, if you were to think about the value to your vision for a lifetime, it's really priceless. That's what I think. I mean, in my opinion, vision is the #1 sense. You may have a different opinion, but I do think it's the most important of our 5 senses. And it's so important to do all these things to protect and preserve it. So the value is priceless. If you were to work with me in my office over 6 months, we have multiple visits. And we go through each of these in detail on a very personalized basis. The cost is about $2,000. However, because we're doing this through an online course, the cost of the course is normally $499. This is 4 weeks, 4 modules, actually 3. Well, I'm going to share with you, there's some bonus modules as well, but 4 weeks and with all the resources that have lifetime access. But because you're on the webinar today, I am offering a special price. You get 30% off. So instead of the price of $499, it will be $349. So if you buy today from the webinar, it'll be $349, which is a great value, I think, for all of the time we spent together. Now, there are 2 bonus modules, and I think you're going to love these bonus modules because the first one is called the Youthful Solution. The second one is called the ocular nutrition solution. So let me explain what these are. So in week 4, now we have the 3 core modules in the first 3 weeks of the course. In week 4, the youthful solution is beyond cosmetic surgery. So I know many women, especially as they get into their 40s, 50s, and beyond, start to notice cosmetic changes around their eyes. For example, dark circles under their eyes, fine lines and wrinkles around their eyes, maybe sagging eyelids or sagging brows where they're having trouble seeing because their eyelid is blocking their vision. These are all very common vision changes or eye-related changes that happen as we get older. So in this module, I teach you how to manage all of these changes, first holistically, and then if someone is interested, all of the other options that are available. For example, there are lots of lasers that can be done, even surgeries that can be done to manage a lot of these eye issues. So I go through the entire spectrum with you, which is, I think, for a lot of people, this alone is worth the cost of the course, because if you have cosmetic surgery, for example, that will run you thousands of dollars, anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 to get cosmetic surgery on your eyes, or even if you do Botox or fillers, that's well over $350, which is what the cost of the course is today from the webinar. So there's a lot of things that, I tell my patients these things and they're like, wow, Dr. Rani, I had no idea I could do that and look and feel more youthful when it comes to my eyes. Now, the next bonus module is, this is also during week 4. So we have a couple of sessions in the last week of the course. This is the ocular nutrition solution. So here I go through with you how to use nutrition to biohack your eye health, which specific nutrients, which specific foods you can include in your diet to help protect against dry eye, to protect against cataracts and macular degeneration, and even glaucoma. So there's a lot that can be done using a nutritional approach that people have no idea about. Again, a lot of my eye doctor colleagues have no clue because we were never really taught. But having been trained in functional medicine, I was fortunate to be able to learn all of this nutrition science. And so I use it a lot for many of my patients when it comes to their eye health. Now, this is how the course is set up. So basically, we have 4 weeks. Module 1 starts next week. It starts on Monday, January 22nd. And then Friday will be the Q&A session. Week 2 is Monday the 29th with the Q&A session. Week 3, Monday the 5th, February 5th, with a Q&A session on February 9th. And then the bonus modules are going to be kind of back to back. So February 12th, February 13th, and then the Q&A session, which is our graduation ceremony for the course on February 16th. So if anyone is interested in the course, I'm going to have my assistant put into the chat the link to the course. If you're interested, you can check it out, see what is offered, the dates. Now, in case you cannot make the dates, no worries. If you have to miss a session or two, let's say you're working during that time, the sessions, the Mondays and Fridays are going to be at 12 noon. So Eastern, just like today, this is 12 noon. No worries, because everything is recorded and everything will be uploaded into a course portal that I use. And so you can access those recordings at any time and go back and listen or review whenever you feel like it's necessary. So everything is recorded. Of course, I would prefer that you join live, because that way you get the most benefit. You can get your questions answered, etc., live, but you can always turn to the recordings. So again, the course is $349. If you click on the link, now this is really, really important. You must use the discount code. If you don't use the discount code, you will be charged the full price of $499. Of course, we can issue you a refund, but it's just better to go ahead and put the discount code in so you don't get overcharged for the webinar price. So put in the code Ageless30. And I'll show you how to do it. So basically, when you click on the link to the course, so you can just try it right now, click on the link and you'll see that there's a register now button. So you click the register now button and this will pop up. So you'll see the course price, you will see your information here. So before putting in any of your information, what I would say is go here, and on the bottom here, you see it says coupon code. So you're going to click this. you have to click this coupon code. And when you click the coupon code button, you're going to have a field here where you can enter the coupon. So enter Ageless 30 into this field and then hit apply. And then what you'll see is you'll see the discount taken off. So ages 30, 30% off. And this is the price, $349 and 30 cents. And then you can go ahead and enter your information and the payment method. So don't forget to do that, because I've had a lot of people on my last webinar who forgot that they got charged full price. And again, we'll refund, we'll honor that price if you email us, but it's just better if you go ahead and enter the discount code. So there are only 100 spots available for every course I run. I ran this course last January. So right now I'm only doing it live once a year. So make sure you register if you're interested. Try to register as soon as possible, because the course may fill up and then you'll have to wait again for some time before it gets offered again. I've had some really great feedback from past students who really, felt like they were transformed. Their eyes were, really suffering before, but having learned all the strategies from the course, people really feel empowered to go forward with their vision. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is there is a money back guarantee. So, let's say you're on the fence, you're not really sure if this course is right for you. I do offer a 5-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. So basically you can take the first module, experience it, see what it's like. And if you decide it's not right for you, you have to email us and just say, I want a refund for the course, and we will refund the full price that you paid within 7 to 10 business days. So yes, there is a full money back guarantee. And then again, this is the link and the coupon code. So now we're nearing the end of the webinar, and I want to thank everybody for sticking with us today. But I did say that I would offer you a webinar gift if you stay till the end. So this is my gift here. I'm going to have my staff put it into the chat so you can download this. This is a dry eye product guide. So you can download this and take a look at it. Basically, I go through all the different types of drops that can be used for dry eye, which are the ones that are safest, and how you can choose for your particular type of dry eye, which is the best for you. So please go ahead and take advantage of that. It's my gift to you for sticking with me through the webinar and staying till the end. Now, the other thing is, if you're interested in nutrition, I always get a lot of questions about nutrition during the webinar. I do have a book that I wrote and published earlier. Well, it was published in 2023 in April, but it's called Beyond Carrots, Best Foods for Eye Health. So you can scan the QR code. It's available on Amazon if you're interested in getting the book. It has hit the bestseller list many, many times since it was published. So there's a lot of great information in there. And also I go through not just one food like carrots that are good for your eyes, but 40 different foods that you can use to support your eye health. So take a look at that if you're interested. And finally, I will open it up for some questions, but if you ever need to reach us, myself or my staff, you can email us. This is the email address, info@rudranivanikmd.com, or you can give us a call. We're based, again, US number, 646-820-2074. Or you can visit our website as well. So now with that, I'm going to just go back a few slides here, but I wanted to spend a couple of minutes answering your questions. So do you have any questions you would like to ask? Put them into the Q&A box if you do, and we can answer. I can try to answer some of those questions. So one question I had was about dry eye drops. There were a lot of recalls. Which drop is safest to use? So what I would say is, yes, there were many, many recalls in 2023 for drops that were contaminated, either with bacteria or with fungi. So basically, you want to avoid generic drops. That's my biggest recommendation. So don't, buy over-the-counter generic drops, because yes, they're cheap, but they could not have proper manufacturing safety practices in place. So I would say try to purchase drops from a reputable manufacturer. For example, the ones I love in the US are Refresh or Sustain. These are two brands that have a lot of safety procedures behind them. They're made in sterile facilities, a lot of checks and balances when it comes to the manufacturing of these drops. So again, if you look at my dry eye product guide, you'll be able to see what are the different types of Refresh and Sustain, which ones can you try. But always stick to a reputable manufacturer. I know that even in the US, there were a couple of brands like CVS or Target that that were found to be contaminated. So even brands that you think are reputable may not be. So don't buy the generics. I also had a question about MSM drops for dry eye. So MSM stands for methyl sulfonyl and it's a drop that is not FDA approved. And basically, it's thought to help improve penetration into the eye. I really am not a big fan of it. Actually, some of the MSM drops were recalled. So I would say if you're going to use it, make sure you're getting it from a reputable manufacturer. But in my research, I have not found anything that really suggests that it is truly beneficial for your dry eye. So for dry eye period. So, and it is something that we cover in module 1 is all the various types of drops on the market, how to choose the best drop that's safest and right for you. So let me see what else has popped up in the question. So I have a question about floaters. So floaters are very common. They do happen. They can happen in younger ages, but they do happen as people get older. Floaters are lines or dots or squiggles that people can see floating around in the back of one's eye. So they are very common. Are they directly related to menopause? Well, I would say not directly to hormones because men get them too. So it's more of a general aging change that happens in the back of the eye rather than related to specific hormones. And so floaters can be bothersome. There are a couple of things that can be done for them. And I do plan to have a future masterclass on floaters. So stay tuned for that. And it's not actually something I cover directly in the course because there are many, many other topics that are covered in the course, but I will have a future class on floaters. And I have another question here about functional medicine eye doctors in Los Angeles. Or on the West Coast. I actually am not familiar. So I went through functional medicine training. And to my knowledge, there's only a handful of us that are dually trained in ophthalmology and functional medicine. Personally, I only know one other person who's actually dually trained, and he's semi-retired, and he's in New York, basically. He's not on the West Coast. So unfortunately, I don't know of anyone on the West Coast who is dually trained, but if you're interested, again, consider taking the course because you will learn so much. If you've gotten value from today's webinar, think about spending 4 weeks with me. We go through a lot. We go through a tremendous amount, and I provide you with both aspects of care. The traditional ophthalmology aspect of care, which is medical and surgical, but also the holistic approach, which is really based in, again, natural approaches to help preserve your health. And then I have a question about IPL. Yes, so IPL is pulsed light therapy, so infrared pulsed light therapy, and that can also be used for inflammation of the eyelids. So sometimes that can contribute to dry eyes. So yes, it is FDA approved. It can be used. It requires multiple treatments versus LipiFlow, which is what I use in my practice. It's a single treatment. Depending on, what you respond to, what your eyelids look like, one may be better than the other, but that's something you can have a discussion with your eye doctor about whether IPL is right for you or LipiFlow may be right for you. So I think with that, I know we've gone a little bit over the hour, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out our webinar today. But again, if you haven't already registered, strongly consider registering for the course because it's only offered about once a year or so. So you want to get in, save your spot, and learn whatever you can do to be proactive about your eyes.